Oh, man. Good morning. Good morning. Ole Miss won in baseball last night, and Mississippi State plays tonight. There you go. There's your college baseball update on the Out of Bounds show. ESPN 1059 The Zone. You know that Gunnar Hoagland, Christian McLeod, our players of the week, brought to you by XL Water and Coffee. How about water to your door? Fresh, healthy water. Visit wateratmydoor.com. 50% off your initial order with promo code BOUNDS. Wateratmydoor.com. Oh, man, they dropped off a unit for us. It is fantastic. XL Water and Coffee, wateratmydoor.com. 50% off your initial order. Promo code BOUNDS. We are the Out of Bounds Show. ESPN 1059 The Zone. You can watch the show right now on YouTube. Search Out of Bounds Sports. We're also streaming live on the Out of Bounds radio app, and we will be live from the Golden Moon Casino Sportsbook tomorrow and Friday. Well, award-winning Dancing Rabbit Golf Club. As you know, they're right there together. And so we'll do a show from the Golden Moon Casino Sportsbook for March Madness, and then we'll do a show from award-winning Dancing Rabbit Golf Club. 2 courses, the Azaleas and the Oaks, and consistently in the top 100 courses in the country. We want to welcome in Dak Prescott, Dallas Cowboys insider, NFL Network. He is the co-host of the Boys and Girl podcast on the Herd Network with Jane Slater. We welcome in Bobby Belt on the Modelo guest line. Bobby, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm good. How are you?
Well, I'm better now that Dak Prescott is signed. You know, I mean, it was kind of touch and go there for me for a while. I wasn't sure if I was going to have to quit the Cowboys because I'm definitely not quitting Dak Prescott. So I'm happy about that. I'd like to know, you're a Cowboys insider, and you cover a fascinating team, biggest brand in American sports, and an owner who's a brilliant businessman and okay in football, but a great personality to cover. What is it like when Jerry is going through a press conference after signing Dak Prescott and says things like, you know, and I don't think he overpaid him, by the way, but says things like, well, if I'm going to overpay anybody, I feel good about overpaying Dak?
I mean, I think that was more just, I don't even know that he was necessarily saying he did. I think he was more just speaking to what some people may have been thinking. But I mean, even still, if that was what he was saying, I'm sure he paid more than he wanted to because they have their number, Dak's side has his, and then they meet in the middle. And so, you know, typically they overpay for anybody that they sign, or they believe they've overpaid. They've tried to get it for less.
Sure.
And so I wouldn't read too much into it. I mean, it is fun to sit through a Jerry press conference, though. We actually had Texas Pro Day the next day, and we were going to drive down to Austin that night to be there so that we could go first thing in the morning. And Jerry delayed us a little bit because he went really long on that press conference. But I actually wasn't even mad. Normally I'd be mad about being that late, but he was in rare form. It was pretty enjoyable hearing Jerry live and in person with all his backcountry witticisms again. And so it was, I actually didn't even mind being late to Austin for that.
I mean, seriously though, you cover the owner who does the most, news hits, and he's always in front of a microphone. I mean, that's content gold for y'all. Is he, because he's a billionaire many times over, and he's so insulated, does he understand, like, even though he doesn't say it, does he understand, like, the Jalen Smith contract and the Zeke Elliott contract are terrible? Or does he really believe that he and Steven put together good deals with those players?
I mean, I don't know that they would go as far as to say they're terrible. I think they would say, like, I mean, I would say they're terrible, but I don't know that he would view it that way. I think that they probably view it more as, I don't ever think they view it as bad or good or anything like that with their contracts. I think they just look at it as, you know, underperforming or overperforming or performing at the value of the contract. And I think they would just view them right now as underperforming. Now, while that's splitting hairs a little bit, and it's the distinction without a difference type of thing, I do think that I don't think they've been pleased to this point with the return they've gotten on those two, and they're clearly not so far from being salvageable in their opinion. At least Jalen isn't. Zeke would be tough to cut right now, but Jalen, you could actually save money if you post June 1 cut him, and they didn't do that. And so they clearly think there's something worth salvaging there, but I think they would say that those two have probably, if you got them privately off in a corner, I think they'd say that both those contracts haven't been what they were hoping when they paid them.
Do you think that Jerry is capable of cutting Zeke or moving off the contract before it's over? Not this year, but at some point, Bobby.
Yeah. I think we're looking at probably next offseason or the one after where they could be looking at that decision. They very rarely see guys through all the way through to the end of contracts. I mean, the Cowboys have. A lot of people thought they'd never cut Tony Romo, and they did. A lot of people thought they'd never cut Dez Bryant, and they did. They walked away from DeMarco Murray. So I could definitely see they're not so emotionally attached to players that they'll stay locked into a bad business decision. And he did a lot for Dez Bryant the way he's done a lot for Ezekiel Elliott. And he had a big investment in both of them. And ultimately, he was able to walk away pretty quick after signing that deal, too. Dez was just here 3 years after. And so I think you're probably looking at the same sort of thing with Zeke, that I would guess that next offseason or the one after, they'll look at it and they'll probably move on.
Okay. He is Bobby Belt. You got to follow him on Twitter. He's hilarious, at Bobby Belt TX, especially during the season. He entertains me on Sundays, whether the Cowboys are winning or losing.
I'm glad you're entertained by it. A lot of people get annoyed by it.
It's more fun.
Dude, I think it is so funny. So on Sundays, I'll open a beer and I'll turn on the Red Zone, and if Dak's playing, I'm locked in. I quit the Cowboys once he got hurt, but and then I just followed you on Twitter and watched the Red Zone, and Blake and I will text back and forth. Did you see what Bobby it's hilarious. So at Bobby Belt TX, because it's witty, fun sense of humor, has fun with it and so on. But there's a little snarky in there, which is good, not too much.
Well, there's a lot of snarky, I think.
All right, Bobby Belt on the Modelo guest line. We're talking Dak Prescott and the Cowboys. He's got a good new contract. He's going to be there for a while. That's a good thing if Jerry and Steven can do this thing right. Speaking of doing it right, what is realistic for them to do on the offensive line over the next few months in the draft, developing players, blah, 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 going into week one? Bobby?
I wouldn't be surprised. I think if Penei Sewell from Oregon's there at pick 10, they're taking Sewell. I think they've got their ideas of where they'd like to go. I think they really like Patrick Surtain. I think that's probably the odds-on favorite right now. But if Sewell were to get to them, I think they'd take Penei Sewell. And they'd just stick him at left guard and, roll with that for a year or so until Tyron was gone, and then you've got your new left tackle. So I could see them approaching it that way. They could take Rashawn Slater. I think the stack I would guess they have it right now is Penei Sewell, Patrick Surtain from Alabama, and then Rashawn Slater from Northwestern. And so they definitely could take an offensive lineman there. If they don't take one of those top ones in the top 10, then maybe they wait till the end of the third or they get into the fourth round before they're looking at offensive line, and then they're looking at somebody like Brady Christensen from BYU. They could go a couple different directions with it, but I think they're pretty much done with their off-season acquisitions in terms of free agency. Other than maybe they go get a rotational or camp body type of offensive lineman, but I think they will pick a tackle, one that can play guard too in the interim. But I wouldn't be surprised if that first pick goes to an offensive lineman if Sewell gets there. If Sewell gets there, that's who I would place my money on. That's who they're going after.
Ooh, I love that. Yes. Let's go. Let's go O-line at 10. Do you think that Jerry and Steven, we're talking with Bobby Belt, Cowboys Insider on the Modelo guest line. Follow Bobby on Twitter at BobbyBeltTX. You're listening to ESPN 105.9 The Zone. Would Steven and Jerry consider moving out of the 10th pick, Bobby?
I never say never, but I mean, I think they're happy. I think they feel like with everything that went wrong last year, they feel pleased that they're back near the top of the draft and can get a difference maker pretty quick.
Okay.
So the only wrench in all of this is that it's a COVID year, and there's a lot of guys that they'll be looking at that didn't play last year. I would believe there would be teams that are going to trade back. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if you see a couple trades this year of a team just says, hey, we normally wouldn't trade out of the spot, but we haven't seen these guys, and these guys are the top ones that we're considering, and they didn't play last year, so we're going to trade back, and we want a first-round pick next year, and that they're going to bank on things being a little bit normal and having more information than they have. I mean, the scouts this year have less information than they've ever had for a draft. They can do the film study, that's not the problem, but in terms of getting to know these guys' football character, being able to be on campus and talk to them and talk to their resources at different schools, they haven't gotten that this year. And so there's a little bit of antsiness, and there's a little bit of a feeling of, incomplete information for their reviews of these players. And so I wouldn't be surprised if some teams try to move back and stack up picks for the future instead when they think they'll have better information. I don't know that it'd be Dallas, though.
Okay.
Like I say, I think their eyes right now are on Surtain, and Surtain did play last year.
Sure.
And they've got good connections at Alabama, and they've got good resources at Alabama to talk to people. And I think that they look at that, and the guy that they've zeroed in on there, they feel like they don't have questions about. So if they were able to get there and Surtain is there, and that provided it's not Penei Sewell that's available, then, I mean, I think they'd feel good about just standing in and picking Surtain.
Talking Dak and the Cowboys with Bobby Belt on the Out of Bounds show and the Modelo guest line. Okay, this is the last year with Amari Cooper, Gallup, CD, and Wilson all together, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
I would guess so. Yeah, I mean, Gallup's contract is up. I don't know that they're going to have the space to pay him, or that they're going to view that as a wise investment. And if they do pay him, then I think that means they're moving on from Coop. But I think they feel good about Amari Cooper.
Okay. So, but they could pay Wilson and not Gallup?
Yeah, I don't think they'd pay Wilson like they would have to pay Gallup. I think Wilson would just be elevated, and they'd hope to get a little bit of a bargain on him. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I think that you're probably looking at, I mean, Wilson and Gallup are two great examples of what you can do through the draft and getting receivers. You can find receivers all over the draft. It's become such a, talent-rich position, whereas, like, you've got the offensive line and quarterback that are, a little bit thin and lacking in terms of the talent pool across the league, and the NFL's always looking for more guys there. They're not really looking for a ton of receivers right now.
Right.
You've gotten a generation of kids that grew up watching Randy Moss and, guys like that, and decided they wanted to play receiver growing up. And you've got a good collection just about every year. Every year you can find a third, fourth rounder who can really contribute. So I wouldn't be surprised if they also took a day 3 receiver just to kind of stash away and prepare for it. But I mean, yeah, that's certainly one option they could have, is they just let Gallup walk, sign Wilson to a deal cheaper than Gallup will get, and elevate him.
Is Dak's face everywhere in Dallas, in the Dallas metro area?
Yeah, I mean, he's pretty popular. There wasn't a whole lot of pushback against the deal. I think everybody was so worn out by the discussions and arguing over it and debating it, that I think it reached a point that even the Dak critics, for the most part, came around and said, just get it done or don't. Like, just give us an answer. And I think that getting it done was a big boost for everybody's morale, for the fan base, and you're seeing him a lot more included in social media videos. He's a lot more public now about, where he's working out and what he's doing. And, he's working out at Melvin Sanders' gym in Dallas. He's been doing his stuff with 3D QB. He was at a quarterback camp a couple weeks ago for like middle schoolers and high schoolers.
Oh,
And
nice.
so, yeah, he's been a little bit more active and out front. And we actually started seeing a little bit more of that right before the deal came. And that was another sense that some people were wondering, okay, are we getting close here? Because he's being a little more public about his movements right now.
And so for the most part, he is won over Dallas.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that you're always going to have the guys who are like the Romo stands who are dug in and, are going to be Romo loyal and view it as he took his job, and they're never really going to be fans. But I think for the most part, everybody, definitely Monday through Saturday, there's nobody who's not a fan of Dak Prescott.
Right.
There's still some who are a little skeptics on Sunday, but I mean, I think everybody agrees that in terms of being face of the franchise and being that, because quarterback of America's team is not just a Sunday job. It is a heavy burden Monday through Saturday as well. And I think everybody agrees that he's about as well equipped as anybody could be to have that job.
So, yeah, I mean, he's an A-plus locker room guy. Would you agree?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that you saw pretty quick when he went out and he wasn't in the building consistently, he wasn't in the locker room consistently, that's when you started hearing leaking out of discontent. And I think that he holds that in place and guys, follow his lead. And Dak isn't one who will leak locker room trouble or any sort of discontent. And so I think as soon as he was pulled out of the mix, guys started talking. I mean, you saw how quickly that culture kind of crumbled when he was pulled out.
Do you think that he and Mike, we're talking Dak Prescott and the Cowboys with Bobby Belt, great follow on Twitter at Bobby Belt TX, work with the NFL Network, and of course his podcast, the Boys and Girl Podcast on the Herd Network with James Slater. He joins us on the Modelo guest line. Has Dak cultivated a good relationship with Mike McCarthy?
I think so. It's really tough to address that one because Mike McCarthy is so much more treats like practice reports and injury reports like they're state secrets than Jason Garrett did. And it's a little bit more contentious at times with the media. And part of it, I think, is we just weren't allowed in the building. Nobody was allowed to really get close and get to know him last year. Mm-hmm. And so there's still sort of a unfamiliarity there and a little bit of tension at times between the beat and Mike McCarthy. And so because of that, and because we weren't in the locker room and couldn't talk to guys and gauge the temperature, it's just a little different. So it's hard to get a good grip on it. Hopefully we have a better idea this year. I think that, and this is just natural because of how much time he spent with Jason Garrett, I don't think he's at a point in his relationship with Mike McCarthy where he's as close to him as he was with Jason Garrett. But I mean, they made a point in the press conference of talking about that after he went down, Dak was sort of Mike McCarthy's gauge on the locker room, that they would use Dak to kind of, hey, where are the guys at right now? Which I think is interesting. That also speaks to there was some trouble there in the locker last year, and that they were, had to have an ally representing the staff to talk to the players a little bit. And it was funny, one of the things that when they said, what does this team got to do to take the next step? First thing Dak said was get our culture right. And that's kind of the first admission, and I think it was a soft admission, but it was the first admission that things weren't totally great in the locker room last year. And I think that him being removed from it after he got hurt was just the final pushover of a domino that led to, a bunch of cascading events of this just isn't a great locker room right now. But I think they've moved on from some of their troubles. They went ahead and traded Everson Griffin, who was not great in the locker room. There was some tension with Aldon Smith's presence. I don't believe is coming back. And so I think they've made some moves to push people out, and I think they've got Dak, and that's the glue back in the building, and they've handled his contract. I think that'll, please some guys who wanted to see him here for the long term. And, from everything we've heard, he's willing to be an advocate to the locker room for Mike McCarthy. And so their relationship is at least positive, we believe. But without being in there consistently, we can't tell if that's smoke. I don't think it is, though. I mean, I think they do have a solid relationship. But, I mean, I just obviously don't think it's to a point yet where he was at with Jason Garrett.
Sure.
Where it was, like another father figure or something.
All right, Bobby Belt, Cowboys insider on the Modelo guest line talking Dak Prescott. What about Kellen Moore? Do you believe in Kellen? I mean, I'm tired of seeing 2nd and 9, 2nd and 8, running Zeke on first down. I mean, I almost throw my beer at the TV on Sunday. So where are we going with this? I mean, does he understand that they've got Dak, Amari, CD, Gallup, and Wilson, what we just talked about, and they need to put the ball in the air?
I mean, I like Kellen Moore. I thought Kellen Moore did a good job for the most part last year, especially once Dak went down. I thought he did a good job creating when there were serious limitations passing the ball. And I think that when you saw him, there were times where they ran. The only game I didn't like that he called last year was the Rams game, the opener. And I think he adjusted pretty quick. And, I mean, you saw Dak 3 of the next 4 games throws for 500 yards. And so, or 400 yards or whatever he had tossed for. And so I think that I know Dak is a big fan of Kellen Moore, and Dak likes working with him, and Dak believes in him. I was surprised he stayed this offseason. I thought he was going to take the Boise State job. I know. You talk to some people over there, and you hear that maybe the interview didn't go so well, that he didn't have a full grasp on how to build a program yet. They liked him as a play caller, but they weren't sure about his ability to build a program
I could see that.
stage. And so I think that's ultimately why he didn't get the job. But I think Dak is one of the bigger proponents of Kellen Moore.
Okay.
And I think that I think the offense will be humming along with Kellen and Dak together. And I think that Kellen believes in Dak's skill set and believes he can, carry a team with his arm. It's just there is a little bit of he still is pretty consistently run on first down, throw on second and third. But I mean, I think with the play design and what they have with Dak, they usually move the ball down the field just fine. Where I would like to see him improve is when the field gets shorter, his designs seem to get a little stagnant.
Right.
And they have trouble in the red zone still, especially inside the 10. So that's where he still needs to improve more so than I think how much he runs the ball. I think you'd want to see him improve when the field gets shorter.
All right. I need you to do me a favor, Bobby. I need more Tony Pollard, less Zeke Elliott for 2021.
Man, let's get some Kylan Hill. Let's do that.
There you go.
Let's get Kylan Hill on day 3.
I love that. 4th round, 5th round, Kylan Hill to the Dallas Cowboys. Let's go.
There you go.
Bobby Belt, follow him on Twitter, @BobbyBeltTX, Cowboys Insider, joined us on the Modelo guest line. Bobby, we appreciate it, buddy. Take care, man.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Bobby Belt does a great job covering the Cowboys, @BobbyBeltTX on Twitter. His podcast with Jane Slater is super good. Also works with the NFL Network. That was fun. 20-something minutes on Dak Prescott, Jerry Jones, and America's team, the Dallas Cowboys. Hey, the show is brought to you by Rick's Pro Truck. Spray and bed liners, lift kits, tires, and wheels. RPT, Rick's Pro Truck.